Hey YouTube, here's Heiko. Today I'm working, not really working, just fiddling around with my old table saw. Here, this is a really old Craftsman contractor saw, which is sitting on top of a stand that I bought at Harbor Freight. This saw was in pretty rough shape when I got it. The top had to be cleaned up really well. There was a lot of rust. The fence system here, it's a Paralock 2. And this fence system was also not really working very well. It's the type that has a cable system here, a 2 steel cable that pretty much pull both ends. So if I move one side, the other end of the fence get also pulled. So if you adjust this right and bring it parallel to your miter slot and then you clamp it down with your handle, it actually clamps it down on both ends of the fence. So there's no way of getting this out of parallel by pushing against it over here because it's clamped down on both sides. I got it all cleaned up. It's sliding pretty well. You know, every other week I put a layer of wax on here. What is it called? The Johnson paste wax. That's what I'm using. And so, yeah, the rib fence is working really well. I might have to bring this down. There's quite a gap here under the fence. I want to get this a little closer to my tabletop. And then I had this old miter gauge, and I'm assuming this is original to the saw. The saw is 65, 70 years old, and I assume this was as well. It had a lot of play. The runner had a lot of play in the miter slot here. So I just started putting a couple little dimples. There you can see one. A couple little dimples with my center punch on there. Worked my way up. There's still a little bit in there. So I'm going to continue until this is perfect. And then I attached, I don't even know what this is here. It's a 2.5 inch by 1/2 inch thick piece of wood that I had sitting around. It was really straight. So I only ended up doing one rib cut to cut the bottom side perfectly straight. And then I attached it to my miter gauge here. I used, you know, those are those little tags that I use when I do a small engine repair. I use those as a feeler gauge. Put one there and put one here. Oh, no, it doesn't fit anymore. Just to make sure that it has a minute little gap between the tabletop and the wood. Attached it to the miter gauge, and then I made a cut in the 90-degree position. Then I made one cut each direction in 45. And yeah, so this definitely improved my miter gauge here a little bit. So now it actually has a section that goes past the table saw blade. So if I have a cutoff here on this side, it gets pushed out of the way. So that's pretty nice. And then I also adjusted my little pointer here. Made sure that I have a perfect 90-degree angle, and then adjusted the pointer to 0. And so, yeah, it's relatively accurate. Of course, you want to check your angles before you do a very precise cut. But for the time being and for a 70-year-old table saw, I think this is just fine. Next project's going to be making myself a 0 clearance insert. This is like a standard aluminum. I'm actually planning on making that out of aluminum because this seems to be really thin material. And if I make this out of plywood, this is like an 1/8, might be a little weak, so I'm going to cut that out of aluminum. And then also make provisions to accept my shark guard here, which is like an upgrade piece to this saw. Of course, it didn't come with that. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now. My little Craftsman table saw. Look pretty rough. It has a lot of dings and dents here in the tabletop, as you can see, but they're not proud of the surface anymore. So I made sure this is all flush. You know, It's ugly, but it really doesn't bother me at all. It's a old saw which I got for free from a friend, and I'm making it work for me. And the stuff that I had to cut so far with this table saw wasn't really all that precise woodworking, not fine woodworking. I changed the pulleys on the drive motor here a little bit. Got the RPM lower a little bit. It was running really fast, and then I got one of those link belts that supposedly reduces vibration. That is somewhat true. Here, let me start it up. All right, nothing is near the blade. It runs pretty smooth. There's not much vibration going on, so I'm pretty happy with it. Runs a pretty cheapo general purpose blade at the moment. The cuts are pretty clean. You know, I'm pretty happy. Fence is good. My miter gauge is now much better, and not much vibration. So if you want to start out in woodworking and you can't afford a $3,000 saw stop table saw, this is the next best thing. Just look around on Craigslist. Those old table saws here, you can get them for 50, 60 bucks, sometimes 100. I would always lean towards the nicer one. So the cleaner you buy it, the less you have to put time and effort into it. Like I said, I got this for free. It's not a beauty, but it works and makes relatively nice straight cuts. And yeah, little improvements here and there, fiddling around with it a little bit. So my miter gauge still, as you can hear, still has a little bit of some play. But yeah, all right guys, that's what I'm working on today. You guys take care. Bye.